Well, honestly, I didn't have a choice. I looked at it in a couple of different ways. One, growing up in the inner city of Lexington and seeing some of the people that I was surrounded by and some of people I called friends at the time and family and how they struggled, I looked at it as though it was a situation where I had no choice. I had to do something that was different. I had to do something to make myself better and to help my community as well. One of the things that my mother instilled in me from very early on was that, I had a responsibility to myself, one, to my family, secondly, and then to the community in which I was raised to do something better, to make ourselves better, all of that better. And so I looked at college as one way of doing that. It was a way out. It was a way to earn more for myself or my family, and then a way for me to be a role model to others so that eventually they can see what I did, hopefully, and do and want to do a little bit more and want to do the same things that I did. So college was never really an option. My mother was one of the biggest influences. She told me that I had a responsibility. I had to do more. She wanted me to be better than what she was, to do more than what she did. And I took that to heart. There were several other role models, along the way, teachers, mentors, who instilled in me the notion that I could do whatever it is that I wanted to do. As kids, you hear that a lot. You hear that all the time. But you never really take it to heart until you hit some of those rough patches, some of those struggles. And then I remembered and called on some of those people that always said that they would be there for me and used what it is that they told me, some of the words that they instilled in me, as well as some of my own passion, some of my own abilities to do what it is that I really wanted to do. And that always is to be a role model. That always has been to be able to have people look at me in a way that maybe they didn't look at themselves and see some sort of inspiration in some sort of way. And so my mother was an influence to do that. Some of the other teachers that I had along the way that I'm so grateful for, as well as that own innate desire to want to do something different. Well, I wanted to go to a place that was far enough away that I felt like I could spread my wings a little bit and fly a little bit. But I also wanted to be close enough where if there was something that happened, something catastrophic or some sort of emergency or, a situation where I felt like I needed to be around some people that I was familiar with and go back home, so to speak, I wanted to be close enough to be able to do that. So I made the choice to go where I went because it was kind of a mix of both of those things. I was able to have the best of both worlds, so to speak. I was really able to get away and do some things that I don't think I would have been able to do had I been under my mother's thumb or under my family's thumb. But I had the reassurance in the back of my mind that if I ever needed anything, that I could go home and do that and call on those people that really helped me as I was growing up. It was the challenge of my life. And I look back on it now, even now, and I think to myself, wow, First of all, it was a challenge because I was in an environment that I had never been in before, outside of that comfort zone that you develop. When you're younger, you think, wow, I'll never leave home. I'll never leave the comforts of my mother, and she'll always be there, mother, father, grandmother, whatever it might be. And she'll always be there. They'll always be there, and everything's always going to be okay. Well, when I got during that first year, it was an experience unlike anything I'd ever had before because I was out of my comfort zone. I was around people who I'd never been around before, who didn't look like me, didn't talk like me, didn't have the same interests as I did. And for the first time in my life, that was a situation that happened for the first time in my life. I had never been in a situation like that. And so that was a struggle. I had been challenged academically in ways that I was never challenged before. For the first time, I failed. I failed at communicating with people. I failed in some of my courses. I failed in dorm life. And that was the first time that I'd ever experienced that level of discomfort, that level of failure, so to speak. And so that was a real challenge. That was a real eye-opener for me, and I struggled with it. I struggled a lot. But I was able to meet some people and connect with some people, both on a peer level and with faculty and staff members that really took me under their wing and told me, no matter how difficult it gets, no matter how much you want to quit, no matter how much you want to go against what it is that you said you'd always be for your community, you can't do that. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, and again, you owe it to your community to do the very best that you can do. And I was lucky enough to meet people that really took an interest in me, even more than I took an interest in myself at times. Math had always been a challenge for me. Been a challenge from the time for as long as I can remember. Elementary school all the way up through high school, and then entering into that first math course. I didn't know how to study, didn't know how to ask questions, didn't know who to talk to. I was lost, completely lost. Suffice it to say, I failed that first course, something that had never happened to me before. My first inclination, to be honest with you, was to quit. I was going to let that first failure define my entire academic career. But luckily, I ran into some people who wouldn't let me do that, wouldn't let me quit. They instilled in me the ability to be able to ask the kinds of questions that needed to be asked, and to look at this failure not as the end necessarily, but really as a beginning almost, as a springboard to be able to do things differently, to be able to learn how to study, to be able to learn how to communicate with professors, how to ask peers some of the questions that you may feel uncomfortable asking a professor. And so that experience in the long run taught me a lot more than I think it would have taught me had I gotten a B or even an A necessarily. I think that failure is really what propelled me to be able to do well in some of the other courses that came after that, and ultimately to graduate. I really believe that. I think I turned the corner at the end of that first year, going home, actually coming back to Lexington and talking to some of my friends and family who doubted me even still. And I used that motivation, even having failed that first course, that first math course, and doing a lot better in the second semester, coming home and hearing some of the stories, some of the comments, some of the questions that I received from folks back home, folks who you have to remember who were still in an environment where sometimes folks that came back that were semi-successful, and that was frowned upon. And I still think that's the case today. And so I used that as a motivation to go back and go at it even harder in that second year. So I was a little shaky after the first year, even having bounced back in that second semester, but I used that summertime when I came home as a springboard to do even bigger and better things. And from that point, I never looked back. I tell students all the time that it's okay to not know answers. It's okay to hear negativity from friends, family. It's okay to not know how to communicate with folks that look different from you or don't know how or don't act the same way that you do. It's okay. It's okay as long as you don't let that define you. It's okay as long as you take it upon yourself to do something different. My experience, what I went through during the first year, what I went through during the summer after my first year, has shaped the way that I talk with students in a way that makes it a situation where I understand where they come from. I understand some of the things that they may hear or some of the things that they may feel. And so whereas I may have been impatient with students before, or may have been impatient with students who didn't come from the environment that I came from, this experience, coming to a large university, taught me so much that I want to instill in other students now. And so I try to be more patient. I try to be more willing to listen. And I try to instill in students the ability to be able to seek some of the answers on their own as well, in ways that maybe they haven't always been equipped, ways that they don't always know. And so that, I think, is one of the biggest keys, one of the biggest things I would tell students, any student, let alone a first-generation student, is you've got to learn how to ask questions. You've got to be able to feel comfortable enough that you don't know the answers, but that there's someone here that does know. You know, I've been around a few universities in my day, and I'll be honest when I say UK is a place that values innovation, values individualism, values creativity, and so you've got to be secure enough in yourself to be able to be yourself and to be able to ask the difficult questions and to be able to seek some of the answers in ways that you may not have had the opportunity to do before. UK is a place that is so diverse, so open, that it makes people feel a little uncomfortable. It can make you feel uncomfortable if you let that define you, if you let that be something that is a negative versus a positive. I've turned it around when I grew up. As a student at the University of Louisville, I turned it into a positive. I turned it into a situation where I used it as motivation. I sought out answers. I sought out people who were on my side, people who were for me. UK is a place that is filled with so many good people, so many people with the best intentions, people who are here for the student, believe it or not. And any first-generation student has to seek out those people and latch on to those people and use them, milk them for everything that they're worth. Because, you know, my mother instilled in me from very early on that we are here because we stand on the shoulders of those that came before us. And I think there are so many people here who feel that same passion, that same sense of responsibility, that I had as a high school student, that kept me in high school, that kept me in college, and now has propelled me to work with students here. I think there are so many people around the university that feel that same passion. And every student, first-generation students as well, needs to find someone who will pour into them some of that same passion. And, you know, I think this university, this place is a place that is full of those people. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be able to do my part, to be able to help some of those students who may struggle.